Okay.
I can just cut off the first bit when I upload it to
Yeah, I want to
YouTube.
face this way.
And then I want to turn off the waiting room. Waiting room, I can't turn it off. Why not? Is that okay? Well,
Well, it might be that you have to pick some means of security, and that was my
oh,
experience with the University of Massachusetts that gives me my expanded Zoom capacities, but they also say that you have to have some, and
you
that's
either
the
need a
default. The
password.
default is the waiting room, and so I said, good, that's what I'll use.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, I guess that's what I've got on my account. Oh, sorry. What is it? Oh, it's up to you. Thank you. You don't have to if you're tired. Just rest. Thank you, Catherine. Okay. Thanks. Um, yeah,
yeah.
my CCL Zoom line, I don't have a password. Oh, I guess I do have an automatic password, but it's built into the link, so people don't have to type it. So
Oh, okay.
that's how that works. Right,
Now,
so
this here.
find my agenda document. I don't need that, that, or that, or that. I just need my agenda document. Is, and then tabling for the CFD movement.
How long has this team been meeting?
This is our third meeting. Um, we started talking about what to do last summer, and um, for about a year, the CFD movement was trying to figure out how to work with CCL. Oh, hi, Catherine. So it started out, the CFD movement launched as a sub project of a CCL chapter at William and Mary College. Uh, and Emily O'Keefe worked with the Heat Action Team people, Stephanie Mangaya, um, on how to set things up. So CCL and she collaborated, and they tried to move the CFD movement into the Heat Action Team. And what they found was that the Heat Action Team, or sorry, Higher Ed Action Team, had other priorities, and CFD movement became something that at the end of their regular meeting, they would have a breakout session sometimes. And that's when the CFT movement stuff was supposed to happen, which was sometimes not at all each month and sometimes just, 5 or 10 minutes. So, so then they decided to split from CCL and create their own organization uh, about a year ago. And then over the summer, I started talking about creating an action team to help CCL volunteers do something with the CFD movement. Um, and CCL was obviously in turmoil over the summer and fall. They were trying to figure out which end was up. And they ended up deciding a sub team of the Heat Action Team was appropriate because I didn't know this at the time, but they were losing people. They were trying to figure out how to reduce the number of action teams they had. They didn't want to add any more. And so it finally all got set up right before Stephanie left in December. So I got access to the Heat Action Team calendar and I can send out announcements. So we had a kickoff meeting in January. we talked about the kind of skill exercise was how to make contact with a school and send. We have email templates to introduce ourselves and request a meeting with a group of students or a student advisor. And then the second meeting was a presentation template that if you got invited into a school, you could use this strategy to do a presentation that inspired them to bring the CFD movement into their club or project or make a project at the school. And so this is our third meeting, and we're going to talk about tabling, how to, oh, 4 people. I was wondering where everybody was. They're all in the waiting room. Sorry. Hello, everybody. Hey, thank you for joining. Sorry, I tried to disable the waiting room and then I forgot that I couldn't, and I was wondering where everybody was. So welcome to the meeting. Yeah, so this is our third CCL Higher Ed Action Team CFD Movement Subteam. Um, we are part of CCL, and this is for CCL volunteers who want to help connect and inspire students at their middle schools, high schools, or colleges to join the CFD Movement Project, a collective action to help inform their peer students about carbon fee and dividend, get them to take an action, write Congress about it, and spread it to more schools. And hopefully we'll get hundreds of schools involved, and this will become a national media sensation. And either in the 2026 election or 2028 election cycle, we'll be having students bringing in candidates from both parties to talk about why they support carbon fee and dividend with an economist from their school. And we'll make carbon fee and dividend a top level issue in one of the upcoming elections. Okay, so anyway, that's a dream. Today, we have Catherine. She is a student at Bowdoin College, and my daughter. She's also a co-president of the Carbon Fee and Dividend movement. And for those of you who don't know the CFD movement, it has a website, cfdmovement.org, from which most of the activity happens. They have an Instagram account at Carbon Fee and Dividend, and the students meet monthly on Zoom to talk about how it's going on in their schools and come up with ideas about what else to do. Okay, so with that, why don't we just do a quick introductions and where you are, what brought you to the CFD movement subteam, and then we'll get started. And I'll popcorn. Catherine, do you want to start us off?
Oh, sure, thanks. Hi, I'm Catherine. I'm from New Hampshire, and I'm a junior at Bowdoin College in Maine, studying Earth and Oceanographic Science. And I co-lead the Bowdoin CFD movement chapter, and then also co-lead the national CFD movement chapter. And I really appreciate all you guys are doing to help grow the movement. I think we have a good onboarding process and staying in touch with the schools that are active, but we really appreciate the help getting more schools involved. Thank you all. Popcorn, John.
Okay, I'm John Olson. I am in Weetah, Connecticut, which is northwest of Hartford. And my wife is the district lead, co-lead there. That's how I found out about this part of it. But well, I came back to carbon fee and dividend because other routes seemed to be blocked for action. So I ended up writing a little letter to the editor to a conservative journal. And since it got published, that gave me a little hope. And so here I am.
Catherine.
Oh, and I have to popcorn someone. Okay,
Yes,
Kimberly.
Hi, so I'm Kimberly Hammond, and I live in mid-Maine, Frankfort, Maine, and I'm part of the CCL chapter in Bangor, Maine. And so we're doing a teaching an economics class at UMO on carbon fee and dividend and the CCL movement. And so I'm supposed to talk at that for about 5 minutes about what you guys are doing here. And you know, I mean, we were interested at UMO if we could start this movement, but I mean, I'm not a faculty member. I'm a retired high school teacher, but you know, I have my master's at UMO. But anyway, so that's why I'm coming to the meeting, to find out more about what you're all doing and to try to spread the word. So I'll call on Steve.
Hi, I'm Steve Selby. I'm in Lynchburg, Virginia, and I guess I'm just I just see this as being you know, as far as carbon fee and dividend is, that this is where it's at in CCL now, and so I'm just want to keep in touch with it for that reason, and that's basically it. So, and I'll pass it off to Bob.
Yeah, good evening. Bob Babcock here in north central Illinois. Although I'm here in like the Maine and so on. I lived in Maine for a while, and also Massachusetts. So I think UMO is University of Maine in Orono, is it? Hey, I still have functioning brain cells. That's amazing. I'm not supposed to have any left after my hippie years, but which a lot of them were spent in Maine and Massachusetts and so on. So I'm a lifelong environmentalist, and we're starting a CCL chapter, the Greater Rockford CCL chapter in this area. The carbon dividend is something that's actionable, I believe. And okay, I sent that to voicemail. But yeah, I think that's important. And it looks like I'll call on William.
Yeah, hi, I'm William Nash from Long Beach, California, just south of Los Angeles. And I'm here just because I'm always looking for new ways to present carbon fee and dividend information.
Terrific. Who hasn't said hi? Ashraf?
Yes. Hi, my name is Ashley. I'm located in Florida in Fort Myers, and I'm a current graduate in university here, majoring in systems skills, and also part of the chapter here. And also wanted to learn more about, I learned about the team at the CFD, and also wanted to share it to my chapter because some members are young in school, so it'd be nice to share with them so we can grow more in the carbon fee and dividend team.
Terrific. Thank you. And Greg?
Yeah, this is Greg Twade. I'm from Charlotte, North Carolina, and our CCL chapter has tabled at an Earth Day event at the University of Charlotte multiple years. I just wanted to call in to see if I could get some different ideas for how we might table this year.
Great. So does anybody mind if I take a screenshot for posterity? 3, 2, 1. Great. Thank you. Okay. Well, yeah, thank you everybody for joining. This is exciting for me. I've been a chapter leader, a liaison, and I'm state coordinator in New Hampshire, but I've never run a national meeting before. This is my third, and so it's still kind of overwhelming. Yeah, so in the first, we've had 3. This is our third meeting, our third monthly meeting of this action team, subteam. The first one, we talked about how to make a connection with the school, do research to what kind of group or you know, for high school or middle school, a teacher, counselor, you know, for a club or service hours. And then we have sample emails, templates that you can use to reach out and introduce yourself and say, hey, can we meet? In the second meeting, we went through a meeting strategy. If you do get invited in for a half an hour or 45 minutes, a quick 5-minute En-ROADS tour to show carbon pricing is really powerful. Carbon pricing explained with chickens video that takes 2 minutes, but gives the explanation of how carbon pricing works to somebody who's unfamiliar with it. The carbon fee and dividend laser talk, an economist statement, and then a little about the CFD movement, and hand out some stickers and posters and say, here's a map on the website of all the schools that are doing this now. And, simply by signing up, you can put your school on the map and spread the posters and stickers around. And if you want to, you can talk about the policy in class with teachers. You can do lots of things with this information. It's sound science and economics, and you can go quite far with it if you want to. But it's a collective action that we need going across the whole country at schools. And if you add your school to it, you'll be part of maybe the next big social movement in American history. You've read about collective actions with civil rights and women's suffrage and gay marriage, and addressing the market failure to address climate change is probably at least as big as any of those past ones, and you can be part of it. So that's kind of my spiel to people, and that's I didn't record it, but there's a whole document with all of that information in it that's also in the agenda in one of the resources that's listed there. Okay, but today we're here to talk about tabling because next month is Earth Day, and it's either Earth Week or Earth Month, but there's generally a lot of tabling opportunities, especially at schools. Last year, Stanley Wang, who is the treasurer of CFD Movement, he's now a student at the London School of Economics, but he signed us up to table at Boston College, my alma mater. And that's where, so I'll share my screen, can show some pictures. Let's see, I guess this window might work. Where's my tabling document? There we go. Yeah, so there's Stanley. My system is hanging a little bit, but I'll zoom in when I can. There we go. Yeah, so this is the Boston College Quad. There were a bunch of other student groups. Sunrise was there. The table next to me was the sustainability professor of Boston College, so I got to talk with her about half an hour and got invited to go in and show her En-ROADS and that kind of thing. Sunrise was across the way, and it was interesting talking with the Boston College students of Sunrise Movement because what they had been trying to do was get Boston College, the investment team for the endowment, to divest from fossil fuels. And so I listened to their story for a little while, and I said, well, I suggested that they maybe take a different approach. The reason that the investors didn't want to change what they were doing and divest was they said they had a fiduciary responsibility to the school to maximize the returns as best they could, and they couldn't just try to be nice guys. So I said, maybe talk with them about the fact that carbon pricing is spreading around the world, prices are rising, and CBAMs are coming, and it's increasingly likely that the US will have to price carbon soon. And they could anticipate that in their investments, like many businesses and cities across America are doing, with an internal carbon price. And you could get the school to endorse the carbon fee and dividend policy, which is how you get a really good high price at the federal level. So then you can have your investment team making fiduciarily responsible decisions based on an internal carbon price, and you can get an endorsement from your school for carbon fee and dividend, and you can put up these posters to help make it happen. So they were pretty excited about that. So that's just an example of what you can do with these things. So I guess before I talk any more about that, I should show there's tabling resources listed in this file under here. So the CFD movement flyers, as well as things like the U.S. Economist Statement, the Carbon Fee and Dividend Laser Talk, Household Impact Study, and a poster that I made that uses 3 En-ROAD scenarios to show how powerful carbon pricing is, are all available from the Carbon Fee and Dividend website. And it's under the resources menu. The flyers themselves are here, or you can go to tabling supplies. And it's just a Googling drive. You can also get to the flyers folder from here. But there's the Carbon Fee and Dividend Laser Talk. It's just what I reproduced it from the paper that CCL gave me in 2016 when I went down for my first June conference and lobby day. So they didn't give me the PDF, so I just recreated it as best I could. It looks pretty good. And I'll show you the En-ROADS poster. So the claim is carbon fee and dividend is half the global solution to 1.5. That's the hook. The PDF actually has links to the scenarios that used to show this. Last week, En-ROADS updated its model again, and these scenarios are no longer accurate, unfortunately. Where if we started at $15 per ton a year carbon price and increased it by $10 a year through 2100 globally, it used to move us from 3.3 to 2.4. Now I think it's either 2.4, 2.5, I think, might be 2.6. But of course, the longer we take to price carbon, the higher price we're going to need, and the more complementary policies we're going to need. But anyway, these worked until a week ago. I will update them shortly. Okay, so that's that. That's the resources. Tabling. Yeah, and then so there's also when you set up a table, you can make it simple or complex. Stanley and I went overboard. We have a giant most effective climate policy hashtag carbon fee and dividend bit.ly/right Congress here sign. We put some of the classic CFD movement flyers in stands. We had a Chromebook with En-ROADS. We had never actually used that. And then we had a trifold, which I used at Dartmouth College on a table, actually on a stand next to the table. We didn't get very organized. We just put it on the ground this time. But these resources can all be printed from one of the selections on the tabling supplies menu of the CFD Movement website. Okay, so basically, if you have a couple minutes to talk with somebody at college, you can just mention, well, do you know about the fundamental market failure that's causing us to produce too much climate pollution? And most of them don't, but if you get an economics student, they will be familiar with external costs and all of that, and you can jump right to the economist statement. Otherwise, you spend a couple minutes just kind of telling them, it shouldn't be free to pollute, and economists call this an external cost. The damages and losses from climate change, from pollution from fossil fuels, is really due to pollution being free in the market. And if we internalize that cost into the price of producing fossil fuels in a really popular, equitable, beneficial way, we can get a high price. We can make the market more. Oh, thanks. We can make the market more efficient. And then we talk about how you can educate more students from the school. Okay, let me stop sharing and we'll get to questions. Yes, Bob.
Is this officially embraced by CCL?
You know, I've been trying to talk with Rachel to figure out if she's really aligned with this, and so far I have not been able to get in touch with her. It has been, uh, you know, I Brett Cease agreed with it. He approved the creation of this sub team and knew what we were doing. Todd also Elvins, who left, set up the action team access and everything and agreed with it. Stephanie, who was leading the higher ed action team, agreed with it, but she's also left in December. Some of them are on the Heat Action Team list, the current leaders, and so they're getting my mails and still aware of what's going on. So I would say yes, this is still officially CCL is fully supportive of this. And the way that I sold it to CCL was, although the CFD movement is a standalone separate organization, it has the same values, and it also our idea is not to create a giant organization that has all the infrastructure and training and resources and everything that CCL has. We want to put up signs and educate people about carbon fee and dividend and utilize CCL's resources. So a lot of the students get sent to CCL for training and resources and more information. How do you lobby? Oh, there's lobby training on CCL's community, join CCL. And then, so what we're doing is feeding students into the CFD movement. And what the CFD movement is doing is feeding active volunteers back to CCL. So it's a two-way feeder system. And everybody seems happy about the arrangement. So the CCL, the students that are leading the CFD movement are all CCL volunteers. And so, they're highly aligned.
Yeah, that's important to know. As I've been listening to you, I've been thinking about the reality of fossil fuels and nuclear, okay, with the term externalities.
Mm-hmm.
And tonight when I was watching the national news, I was hearing about how many people were killed in the tornadoes and the destruction with the fires.
Mm-hmm.
And all the consequences of global warming. I'm not going to pussyfoot around and call it climate change. It's global warming, and a lot of people, that's become a partisan term, and they don't embrace it. So it's a bit difficult. But we have those externalities. We've got disaster capitalism, and for the longest time, I've been feeling like we need to claw back the money that we've given the fossil fuel and nuclear industries,
mm-hmm.
and put it towards sustainability. It really frosts me when I read that they're going to be $22 billion, I think was the amount that I heard to upgrade the grid. Can you imagine what $22 billion would do when applied towards demand reduction? Tightening up the building envelopes, changing over from gas to ground source heat pumps for heating and cooling, and so on. It's just it just makes me crazy. So thank you for letting me vent.
That's okay.
I assume
the CFD fans have to get together, and we will be stronger than all of us independently working. Yes, exactly. The tabling supplies use the real language. It's anthropogenic global warming, AGW, external costs, negative externalities, market failure. It's okay to say all of these things. When you're talking to students, you don't quite have to be so delicate as if you're talking to a state rep who's feeling pressure from above to reject any words like global warming. So yeah, my
approach generally is in terms of the money. It's all about the money, honey. Sustainability is more cost effective than what we've been doing. So for instance, for Earth Day, I'm doing an energy expo focus on demand reduction with a focus on veterans. It's at Legion Hall, and there will be a number of local veteran organizations that'll be collaborating on that. But yeah,
Nice.
they don't care. They don't give a rat's patootie about global warming, but they care about their wallets.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk about students. What we're going to be doing, hopefully next month, is connecting with schools. Like if you have a college near you, or your alma mater, or even high schools, you can go back through the resources and take a look at some of the email templates. You know, I connected with my local high school of my town by Googling. I found that there was a Marine Club, and I thought, I wonder if they've seen Chasing Coral. So I sent a mail to the Marine Club teacher, counselor, and she said, well, that club's not around anymore, but there's an environmental club I'll connect you to. And I ended up meeting with two students that were leading the environmental club and their teacher, advisor, and gave them, you know, the half an hour spiel with En-ROADS and the carbon pricing talk. So there's a template slideshow you can use if you want to be formal, but there's also just handouts if you want to just talk around a table with them. You know, you can show them a pitch, the page showing the En-ROADS scenarios and the economist statement, and then the two flyers from CFD Movement is really kind of, you know, 4 pieces of material is plenty for a half an hour talk. And then you can go online and show them cfdmovement.org, and that there's a map that shows there are 25 schools that are either active or were previously active doing this. And, you know, wouldn't you like to put your school on the map, and talk about collective action movements, and hopefully plant some seeds, and then follow up, because students are just like the rest of us. Just one introduction to something and then walking away probably isn't going to do it. But, you know, if you keep offering help and, you know, can I bring you some stickers or something like that, to kind of keep leading them on. Once they've joined through the cfdmovement.org website, we are finished with them. They get the CFD movement students, leaders get notified there's a new school. They reach out for an onboarding meeting, and then they provide their own monthly meeting, an Instagram account to kind of keep people up to date and share pictures of actions being taken, and a Slack where they can communicate kind of like in chat form back and forth with each other. So we're the launch team, getting students to join CFD Movement. So does anybody have any, well, Ashraf, you said that you were looking at trying to get some more students interested in CFD Movement at your school. How are you doing that? Or are you thinking about doing a table at the school to try to, you know, that's giving people an action to do to help behind a table for an hour or two is not a bad way to like suck people in. But what are you thinking about doing with your school?
Yeah, it's the biggest tabling. I have to plan ahead, but I was trying to figure out like doing with my chapter, because some people in my chapter are young and also go to the same university as me. So
yeah,
in the next chapter meeting, I can come up with ideas.
Great. Well, Catherine, maybe you want to talk about the tabling that you do at your school, to talk about how easy it can be.
Oh yeah. Well, we set up a table in the student union a lot. And I mean, we could plan it better and make a nice trifold like my dad, but realistically, we just like I think talking to people and having an action you can do is or they can do is like the most important thing. So if you just want to have like some sign that kind of grabs attention and explains what it is, like we'll just say like help solve climate change, and then we'll have like 3 like things they can do, like 1 like write to Congress, 2 take a sticker, or like for you guys it could be like join the Carbon Fee and Dividend movement for 3 or something. And then we just have cookies, and we just, since it's kind of people are like trickling through there, we just book a table like for several hours, and then we kind of sit there and do our homework and talk to people when they come by. But for somewhere like at a Earth Day event where there's like more active people coming by, we wouldn't be like doing our homework. But yeah, I think you don't need, and then we also have a computer at the table, like if we want to pull up En-ROADS or like the Economist statement or like household impact study or like more graphs. But I think like you don't need a ton of supplies at your table if you don't have the time to prepare that.
Yeah, and I've done last minute tabling things where I just bring, well, let me show you where the flyers are, but you can just have a paper or two at your table that catches people's eye and they come over to talk. And that maybe is even better than what I do. Overkill with a trifold with all kinds of information that is kind of too much. I find with the trifold, people don't really look at it as they're walking by very much. Sometimes I point to a picture or two when I'm explaining things, and it's kind of nice to have a resource there. But you can also just have a pile of papers, on the table, with a couple of things handy if you want, a stack of economist statements and carbon fee and dividend laser talks, to share with people. And if you can get them to rate Congress at the table or give them a sticker and say, really appreciate it, if you can rate Congress and maybe share this with some of your friends, or at least put the sticker on your water bottle or something, and help us to advertise, because it's it, every little bit of getting the message out there helps.
So what we've been doing is we've been tabling quite a bit at UMO, but in the past we haven't been pushing your movement. We've been getting them to contact Congress, but I hook them. In other words, when they're walking by, I go out and I say, hi, do you have a moment to talk about the environment and climate? So instead of waiting for them to come to the table, it's like fishing. We hook them with a question. And we get a lot more people to talk to us that way. So
Yeah.
if you're a little bit more assertive, you can actually get these people in to talk to you at the table. Instead of waiting for them just to come to you, you go to them.
I think in our position, CCL volunteers doing that at a school might be easier than a student with their peers. The social implications, you can't, like, unless you're that kind of person, just really outgoing. But you're right. When I table for CCL, I do the same thing, standing outside the table, and just hooking everybody in, and asking them, where do you fall on the Yale 6 Americas spectrum of climate concern and that kind of thing. Thank you. That's good.
It strikes me that we might want to see about collaborating with different organizations. For instance, like the League of Women Voters, local chapters, or excuse me, branches of the NAACP. I chair the Environment and Climate Action Committee with the local NAACP. I know the League of Women Voters, for instance, has a gun violence prevention chair, and they could very well have environmental chairs. You kind of extend your impact, and also perhaps create some possible financial contributions.
That's a great idea. CCL likes to manage its national relationships with the staff. So where in New Hampshire, I work with the different organizations and try to collaborate. But with CFD Movement, we're more free to really make the relationship ourselves at the top level. So if you have connections with the other organizations, that would be terrific to talk to them about the CFD movement. It's a very lightweight project, and the whole intention of it is to spread this policy to as many different organizations and people as possible. And so I think in some respects it makes it easier than being part of CCL. What we're doing is we're not trying to steal volunteers from other organizations. We're just trying to give them a project that they can make their own, as a project that they are doing, to help spread climate awareness and solutions.
Oh yeah,
Well,
most of the
find
school.
another way for people to get involved with their organization. Another reason.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. I started flapping my lips again. Somebody else started talking.
Oh no, I'm sorry. I just wanted to add that most of the schools that are involved in the CFD movement it's through another group that's doing the CFD movement as one of their projects. Like at Bowdoin, we just fully became a CFD movement club, but that's the only one. There's a lot of CCL clubs that are doing CFD movement, and then a lot of like, I don't know, we have like the sustainability squad, or like, I don't know, whatever like the environmental club is. So we're not like asking people to like start a new club. It's just like a lot of existing clubs are happy to take it on as a project.
Yeah, a green club of a high school can easily do this, as in addition to whatever recycling and other things that they're doing, or electrification at their school, because it doesn't, it does take obviously some thinking and learning about the policy, but of all the policies CCL trains people about, I think carbon fee and dividend is the most important lesson in climate economics to share with people. Just the fundamental, it shouldn't be free to pollute. External costs indicate that there's a market failure. The most cost-effective way to address it is to just internalize the cost where the pollution enters the economy, so the price signal is seen throughout. And then, so this is really the thing that people should be talking about regarding climate change. It should be the first thing they're taught, not what you can do individually or for your one particular school, or it's okay, pollution shouldn't be free, and as long as it is, the 8 billion of us on earth are going to be causing too much pollution with all the investment and production and economic activity that's going on.
You said something interesting there with pollution shouldn't be free. And one of the interests of the conservatives is individuals taking responsibility for their input, for their impact. So I mean, I think that's an approach that we can use. If you're going to pollute, then take responsibility for the impact, because otherwise you've got FEMA and so on, people losing their lives with the impact. So I think that's an important viewpoint on that.
Yeah, thanks. I didn't make it up. That's from Kath McKenna, who ran the marketing side of getting carbon fee and dividend done in Canada. She's a brilliant, she didn't come from an environmental background. She came from a communications background. And she was on the Bloomberg Zero podcast a year or two ago. I'll share the link in chat in a minute. It's gold. But her message boils down to the policy details matter and the messaging matters. And for messaging, what they found is the kind of gold standard message is it shouldn't be free to pollute and give the money back. Those are the two phrases that really resonated with people, and I think they're really safe and good to use here also. It shouldn't be free to pollute. You won't get a lot of disagreement about that, except from the Koch brothers, who really want to keep their pollution free.
And
give the money back. CCL hasn't helped us explain why give the money back. But we need a high carbon price, and that if you price carbon effectively with a carbon fee on production, prices are going to go up, and people are going to feel the pain. And it's obvious what happens when prices go up that the government caused. It's no secret that the most important part of rolling this out when you implement carbon fee and dividend is make sure people know they're coming out ahead. And it's not a tax. We're not raising prices and spending it and helping somebody else. All the money is going to people in equal shares, and most people are coming out ahead. And Canada botched that. I think the messaging after their implementation failed because Kath McKenna went to Columbia University and started working at the international level. And she is brilliant, and I don't think she would have let that happen. They're struggling now to fix the lack of proper messaging of the policy once it was in place. But we can make sure that's done properly as well.
Is the policy still in place in Canada?
It is. And
Did they lose it or
no,
no? Okay,
not at
good.
all. And interestingly, Trump may save it. Prime Minister Trudeau became very unpopular, as pretty much every leader, regardless of party around the world, from COVID. And so it was looking like it was going to be a route where the conservatives would take over, and "axe the tax" was one of their main campaign slogans. However, that was kind of a Trumpy leaning of the Canadian voters that it looked like they were going to do what the US did. But thanks to what Trump has been doing to Canada, there's been an enormous backlash, and it's not a shoo-in anymore that the Conservatives are going to win the next election, which will be held probably later this year.
I think in October.
Yeah, Trudeau stepped down a couple days ago. There's an interim prime minister, but they'll be holding elections. And so hopefully, this is my Project 2026. Things are going to get bad because of Project 2025. We don't have to work at it. We have to give people hope and a solution and a way forward. And, this is might just happen automatically in Canada. So that they weren't going to roll back the whole carbon fee and dividend, but they were talking about ending the gasoline portion, tax portion of it, and various pieces of it. But who knows? Maybe that won't happen at all. So yeah. So would somebody like to speak for what's on their mind? And I'm going to go pull out that podcast
Just,
link for you.
One other point Bob was talking about, the government is spending what, 20 billion on grid improvements, but that money might be able to make more difference if it went into building a demand reduction. I mean, yeah. And the thing about a carbon price is it automatically makes those choices in the most efficient way. We'll decide where to invest first, how much to invest, how to, what to do. And it's always going to be better than the government picking winners. And so, anyway, that's just another reason why we're here. I guess that was just a thought that came into my head. That was being discussed.
This is John Olson. I have a question. I have participated in tabling at a community college, and that was possible because there was a faculty member who spoke up for us, because you can't go there unless you're part of the college in some way. And so that wasn't in there. However, some of the things sounded familiar about stickers, for example, that Catherine mentioned. And however, getting the access, getting in, and in fact, when we do it at the community college, it's not with the student organization, which is an environmental organization. They're almost always holding a competing tabling event at the same time. And so we have to staff our own table. So maybe some of the literature that you put in the chat will help me, but it's a question is just how you get that entry into a college where nobody in the CCL district goes to that college.
Well, at UMO, we don't have to be affiliated with the school. We just have to pay $50 for a table. And we've tried to get environmental groups at the college to work with us so we could waive the $50.
Yeah.
But we haven't had any luck for the last 2 years. So I don't know. I mean, it's nothing like that where at that community college you're at.
Well, there are other events where certainly there are fees that dissuade us. But right, there is no fee at the community college because there's a faculty member uh, who uses whatever influence he has to get us tabling there for no cost. If we went to something like a state fair, they would say, well, you need to pay for a table, and it can get quite expensive because you're competing against people who are trying to sell, homemade butter or something. It's very commercial, and that's why people are usually at some of these other events. But
Actually, I'm wrong.
yeah,
They
go
they
ahead.
raised it to $100 a table. So
Yeah.
we used to be $50 and now it's $100. So yeah, we always chip in money as our members at the CCL chapter. But it gets expensive when it's $100 every time you go.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
How about forming coalitions of local environmental organizations to share the cost and use the table?
yeah, we haven't tried that.
I'd suggest that. I used to organize Earth Day in Boston in 82, 83, and 84 with keynote speakers like John Kerry and Mike Dukakis and so on. We had lots of different organizations from all over the Boston area. For me, Earth Day was a total environmental picture. Okay, the social environment, the political environment, and so on and so forth. But we had about 10,000 people come through in 83 during the day. But it was a big collaborative effort.
Another thing to try might be looking for the school sustainability department, or an academic angle, and say, hey, I'd love to come and have an En-ROADS, climate policy demo table and provide information about carbon pricing, and some projects that students can do to learn about that. You know, I did that at Brandeis. They had an event with Bill McKibben and the student from Germany who works with Greta Thunberg on Fridays for a Future. And it was a whole day event, but there was an opportunity to set up tables at that. And that was free. The Boston College one was free also. It was for their Earth Day event, so I'm not sure why that was free and others are not. But there might be ways to make it free if you have a connection or something to offer of interest to a department. The other thing is, working with other groups. So at Dartmouth, I've been invited up twice by the Fossil Free Dartmouth organization. It's just a bunch of students that are protesting because the founder of Irving Oil donated $82 million for the Dartmouth's Irving Energy Institute. And the students would like to take Irving Oil's name off of their sustainability building. But so I met them because 350.org had a protest up at Dartmouth. So I went there with my Carbon Fee and Dividend signs and talked to the people that looked like they were kind of in charge and got to know them. And they invited me to, the fossil free events. It's sometimes it's something that relationships you can build up over time by participating in something that's already going on. I call it reverse tabling. You go there with an agenda and some materials, but not a table. And you listen to the people at other tables, their spiel, and sympathize with them. And then as the conversation matures, go on to why they should be interested in carbon fee and dividend, and try to get your hooks in.
You might also be able to, there was some CCL Maine people gave an En-ROADS presentation to a class at Bowdoin, and the sustainability office helped set that up. But I wonder if you'd also maybe have luck reaching out to like a professor. I just found wait, I'll paste in the chat. I don't know if that worked, but I searched like the UMaine course list for climate, and it says like some classes that might be related, and then it has the instructor. And then if you click on their name, it sends them an email.
Yeah, we're going to speak at the economics class next week.
Oh,
actually.
right. That's awesome.
Yeah, we're going to the economics class. So we can try taking that avenue. And we've contacted, like we've been in touch with there's a climate policy student-led group. And we didn't talk to them about your movement, the CFD movement. We were just trying to get them to contact Congress. And but we just couldn't get them to really let us table with them because they were like, oh, we just don't really have the time. So we didn't get very far with them. But so can I ask one quick question? So Catherine, is Bowdoin the only college in Maine that actually has the movement, the CFD movement?
I think so. I'll
Is
check.
Colby doing anything?
I don't think so. We've sort of had, well, we have a few names from Colby that were like interested, but one of them was too busy, and then the other two we never heard back from. I know Peter Dugas has been working on it, but
Right.
yeah, it has not actually happened at Colby.
How big a group do you have at Bowdoin?
We have like 150 like on our email list,
Oh,
but
wow.
probably like 10 active. But honestly, that's a good size. Like I don't know, we don't really want to like manage more people than that, and that is a lot of people, and we all kind of, well, people come and go, but we know each other pretty well and can have fun together. So yeah.
That's great. I mean, that's a huge group, and 10 is a big number to have active.
Yeah.
So congratulations.
Oh, thanks. And definitely since the movement's been at Bowdoin, like we have a lot more people who have like written Congress and have a sticker and kind of like are generally supportive.
Yeah. Thank you.
Oh, thanks.
I know we're nonpartisan, but I'm not. I'm active in both Boone and Winnebago counties with the Democratic Central Committee. My better half actually is a precinct committee person. And I'm recruiting precinct committee people in both counties. And I would encourage people to connect, at the very least, connect with the precinct committee people in your county, if not becoming one. You know, with your permanent residents, wherever you are. Okay, because that's I mean, like my legislators and we're on a first name basis. It's not senator or congressperson or whatever. It's, you know, it's Bob and Dave and Maurice and so on and so forth. And you know, that's an important position to be in.
Well, I think that we're, like everybody in my chapter, we're all Democrats, but when we talk about climate, that we're very nonpartisan.
You have to be.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
but I mean, I canvassed for the Democrats in the last election. I did a lot of that, but I just don't bring that up when I'm talking for CCL.
You really can't.
Right.
You can't bring it
Yeah.
up. And it
Yeah.
wouldn't be prudent.
I wrote an article, Talk Climate with Candidates, because as state coordinator, I kind of have to be careful. Obviously, Republicans, the leaders in New Hampshire, are almost none of the Republican leadership even wants to hear the words global warming or climate change. It's very triggering for them. So I wrote an article for a local paper and question, do you accept the scientific consensus that pollution from fossil fuels is changing the climate. This is costly and dangerous, and it will require policy changes to address this pollution problem. And if you do, what will you do if elected? So it holds them to, there is scientific consensus about this, but you don't challenge them on it. You just say, do you accept this? And also, do you accept that policy changes are required? Because some of them will let the first part go, but then they think the market is going to take care of it. At least in New Hampshire, there's a lot of free market fundamentalists that believe that if the government would just get out of the way, everything would be fine. So, you need to ask, do you agree that policy changes are necessary? And if so, what will you do? And that leaves it open. And then after they answer that, if you can give them the economist statement and some information about carbon fee and dividend, like George Schultz's The Conservative Case for Carbon Dividends article, just, ask them to think about it and say, there's it was introduced as a bipartisan bill in Congress. There's conservative economists on the economist statement. This is, a pollution problem, and this is actually a good conservative remedy for it. So, asking them to consider it. So I think you have to accept reality, how things really are. That the fossil fuel industry has misled people, manipulated policies and politics to keep their pollution free. But I'm always trying to not offend anybody and get to the point where we can talk about carbon fee and dividend. So anyway, yeah. Okay, well, we have 2 minutes. Does anybody have any more final tabling thoughts before we wrap this up? Questions, ideas, materials? I showed where the materials are available on the website. We have 3 documents now that came out of our past 3 meetings. So the new document is the tabling document, which basically just points you to the cfdmovement.org website. Under the resources, you'll find the materials that are printable. One of them I'm adding to. If you look at the picture of the trifold in detail, you'll see that there's some things that are taped to the trifold that aren't actually available for printing yet. I'll add those tonight or tomorrow, so there will be a complete set of what I've used in the past, and a few extra ones, and you can pick and choose if you're interested in overkill, like I tend to do for my tables. Otherwise, the economist statement and a couple of the classic CFD movement flyers are really all you need. The CFD movement flyer says it all, and then it gives you things you can talk about at the table. And I think inspiring the students to imagine this as a collective action movement of their time to address one of the big issues that they and many people are worried about, and we need to move Congress, and it's going to take a lot of us working together to do it. I think that's what CCL hooked me in with. I could understand the policy pretty quickly because it's so simple, it's powerful, it's beneficial, and we just need more people who are worried about this problem to actually be advocating for it. And that's why I thank all of you for coming tonight, because the more people that are excited about carbon fee and dividend, the better I feel.
Well, we want you to feel better.
I want you to feel better. So yeah, thanks. So please try to reach out to some schools. We're learning as we go. Come with ideas, experiences. We'll get better and stronger the more all of us try different things and pool our experience and knowledge and what works. So thanks very much, everybody. If you're on the HEAT Action Team, you'll get the email about the next call, but it's always the 3rd Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time on cfdmovement.org/call. Thank you very much, everyone.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Great job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.